Hello and a very warm welcome back to Widowed AF. I'm your host, I'm Rosie Moss. And every week I bring to you a story from the forefront of widowhood. And today, joining me, I have got Amy Brunt in Manchester. Hello, Amy, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Rosie. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you because we've spoken in Instagram messages, haven't we? So I feel like, and I love it when I get somebody on that I've had a little bit of contact with, because I feel like it's an opportunity to really it is an opportunity to get to know your story and to know you. So well done you for being brave and also for being so accommodating, because we have had to reschedule this today. Children always ruin everything, right?
Agree.
You can't do anything, can you? So, Amy, I know, as always, I know kind of the bare bones. I know that your husband Max died in the December of 23, and as we're recording this in sort of mid-November, and Christmas is all around us, isn't it? It's starting to creep in, and
Get away from it.
Yeah, I get it. Like, I hate it anyway. My husband didn't die at Christmas, and that sounds awful. I don't hate Christmas. I'm not Scrooge, but I hate what it makes me feel. It makes me feel very lonely and sad, and I don't want to feel that. I want to feel full of twinkly lights and joy.
Absolutely. That is exactly the thing. I was mega for Christmas. It's like, oh, I feel festive and so exciting. And especially that Christmas was the first one with our little boy, and it's just stripped like everything.
It's so cruel. So why don't you tell me a little bit about you and Max? Tell me, where you met, how you met. Tell me the love. I live for the love stories, even though I know there's no happy ending. Twisted.
Yeah, no problem. So I met Max in the December of 2018. At the time, I was very, very single. I'd done the whole online dating, terrible dates, horrendous. I was like the last single one of my friends. It felt like everybody else. Everybody else had got married, had kids, all of that. And I can remember went out on this night out, and my friends were doing the whole oh, who are you texting? Who have you been speaking to this week? And I was like, I am over this.
No one.
I'm happy by myself. Yeah, I've got my own house. All is well, fine. And then I can literally remember where I was. I rang my other friend the next day and was like, oh, I had this crap night out. The girls were hounding me. I'm done. I'm not going on any dates. I don't need a man. I'm done. And I would say 25 minutes later, she texted me, said, I'm setting you up on a date. I was like, have you listened to anything I've just said?
That is like talking to one of the kids, right?
Yeah. So it's like, right, okay. So her hairdresser, her husband had a friend called Max. And so we got set up, numbers got exchanged. And what I liked, and then he messaged me, and what I really liked about him, having done the online dating pen pal, God knows how long, really quickly he was like, what are you doing on Friday night? And this was on the Monday that he'd messaged me. So I was like, okay, tick.
Proactive, tick.
Yeah. So we met at the Woodside pub in Worsley. I remember he was waiting outside for me in the cold. So romantic. And I remember as well, he'd said, oh, we can go for something to eat. And I was like, oh my God, that is stressful for a
Yeah. What do I eat? What do I wear that I can eat in?
What I'm going to eat. But now I know Max's whole world revolved around eating. So that total sense to him. So we went in, got to the bar, ordered a drink, sat down. And then when we took our coats off, we had matching outfits.
No, what were you wearing?
Well, weirdly, a black polo neck, high neck polo neck top like you've got.
Well, all the most fashionable people do.
Exactly. So we both had that and jeans, and then neither of us mentioned it until maybe about 4 or 5 more dates in, and we were like, that was weird when we wore matching outfits. So just hit it off right away.
What did you think? I've just got to butt in because I've not done a blind date like this. What did you feel when you walked in? Did you fancy him immediately? Was it awkward?
I think I thought he was good look. I remember thinking he was good looking, and I thought he was hilarious. That's the thing with Max, is he was the funniest person that you would ever meet, but also weird. You just can't describe him, because he was just, he'd make this random chicken noise just for no reason walking around the house, or he'd just clap himself, or kiss his bicep. He was just odd, But yeah.
I like a bit of weird, you know. Ben once, we were walking into Superdrug in St Albans, where my parents live, and he put his head against my head and said, "We're conjoined twins now," and made me walk into the shop like that. I was like, what? And I'd forgotten about it until you said that.
All these memes. Yeah, so we hit it off, really. We had a really nice meal. The sat next to us was one of Max's like mum and dad's neighbour. And I remember at one point Max going to the toilet and saying, "Oh, he's a brilliant plumber." And I'm thinking, I am not here for his plumbing skill.
That will come in later.
Maybe, but yeah. But yeah, so that was obviously, but it was just great. We just really hit it off. And then we had a little cheeky snog in the car park.
Nice.
Which was nice. Then we went on a second date. He came back to mine. I used to tell people that was the third date, but it was
went free space here.
Yeah. And then on the second date, while we were at mine, he told me that he loved me. And I was like, no, like, wow. This is too much. Actually, then, and just when I was speaking to one of my friends before, she was like, "Well, you weren't that sure on Max to start with." And I wasn't. Like, at first I was a bit like, "Oh, this guy's really keen." And I just don't know. And I think really I was just a bit scared because I'd not been used to nice people. And he
walls her up.
Yeah. And he was really like, "Oh, when can I see you again?" And I was a bit like, "Oh." And then so I don't know what happened, but something just changed in me that I went, "Okay, let's give it a whirl." And that was obviously the best thing that I did. So then he moved. Well, we both had separate houses. And then he just started staying at mine. And then one day he never left. I don't know when he moved in.
Brush appears, pants appear, suddenly they're in.
And then we sort of just did lots of great stuff together, went on holidays. Although obviously it wasn't too long until COVID. So that kind of cut holidays and things short. And then at the back end of COVID, we decided that we wanted to buy a house together. And so we kind of moved out of mine and into his house because there was no point in doing two, while we then looked for our own house, which we found quite quickly. We actually decided to move back to sort of locally to where I'm from originally, only sort of 20 minutes up the motorway from where we were, but the area I'm in is like got good schools and things like that. So we were like, let's move back there.
Down the line.
Exactly. And my dad literally lives like the next road up. So that was also.
And I bet you were bloody grateful of it.
Very bloody grateful of that. So we'd moved in together. We bought like a dog of a house to do up. He was really handy because obviously he was
good at plumbing.
A bit of plumbing, gas and heating and all of that. So I had to worry about what colour is
paint
it.
colours, project management. This is how I renovate. Yeah.
I don't care how it works. Just
does it look pretty?
He one of the things I remember when we were getting the kitchen done, he said to me, "Right, you need to choose when we put the fridge in, you're not going to want one with, like an ice machine, the water thing." And I was like, no, I'm not bothered. It'll be fine. He went, "Are you sure? Because I'm not putting a cold water pipe in." And I was like, "No, it'll be fine." Obviously, right. It's now time to choose the fridge. I like this one, Amy. That's got cold water. That's got a cold water, right? Well, I've not put a cold water pipe in. I was like, "I think this is your problem because you should have foreseen that this was what would happen."
Known this would happen. I can imagine this. I've got the plumbing for a fridge to have the water, but then we bought a fridge, put it in, realised that it didn't actually connect to the plumbing. So you have to fill the stupid little tank. And to add insult to injury, this fridge doesn't quite fit in the gap. I've lived here 5 years. It irritated me for about 6 months. Now I don't even see it.
No.
Not just buy bags of ice.
Much easier. Anyway, obviously, he put the cold water pipe in.
Of course he did.
Of course he did. So then I was very much, he was like, we both like, because we met when he would have been 32-ish. I was 29. So we were kind of at that point of like, we know we want to like get married and have kids. And he probably wanted the kids more than me. Not that I didn't want them. I think he was just a bit more keen. And I just had that like traditional picture in my head of, I want to get married before we have kids. So I kind of forced his hand a little bit.
Have your day first before you sacrifice yourself on the maternal altar. That's what I say.
100%. So then for my birthday, what would have then been in would that have been 21? Yeah, it must have been in 21, as it was coming up to my birthday in the summer. We went to the Lake, he said, I'm taking you home. We went to the Lake District. And then I just totally knew that he was going to propose. I never told him this. Like, that's one good thing. He went to the grave not knowing that I full well that he was going to propose, because I think he thought he'd like planned it out so well. But I'd like seen a flash up on his phone like a couple of weeks before from someone. He'd saved it as PTJ, but we'd always referred to him as Paul the jeweler, which was, my friend knew him, and that was where I wanted my ring from. So PTJ is hardly like the most conspicuous.
You probably thought he created this really hard to crack code as well, bless him.
And then we were going out for the day before we went up to the Lake District. Like, I need to go to the bank. Okay. But you can't come in. Okay, why? Well, you just can't. And then he came out rustling. And then it was like, okay. I was like, well, going out for the day now, do you want to put that, whatever's in your pocket, like back at home? Are you going to carry that? Oh yeah, that's good. So it was all of that. And then he said to me, we were going out that night for a meal with like my family for my birthday. And I was saying about, oh, well, my mum will drive, so we can both have a drink. And he's like, no, it's fine. I've got to go to Nets afterwards to fix the radiator. I was like, at 10 o'clock at night. He was like, yeah, I've got to do it. I was like, okay, bit weird. And then as we were driving later on in the day, Net rings. Hi, I've got a problem with the radiator. I was like, you two have not planned this. Wow. Because I knew the ring would then be at Nets. So we went to the Lake District. And it was funny because it was just funny watching him sweat for 2 days. I bet it was. Ring on him, and I'm going, why are you wearing a running belt? We're in like Windermere, like we're hardly like the height of crime that someone's going to rob you. And then one morning, and then he said, oh, well, I think we should get up really early tomorrow and we can like see the sunrise over the lake. And I'm like, oh yeah, thinking, how can I like be okay about it and put a bit of makeup on and
not complain that you're being woken up at that time.
So then he just wanted it to be like private, just us two, which like is perfect. And I can still like picture him with a stone in his knee when he got on one knee. And it was lovely because it was like, even though I knew it was happening, it was still like this massive surprise as well. Like it was really weird. It was a really weird feeling.
Because you sort of think, you know, but you kind of like, am I making this up? Because Ben too, he'd booked to take me to Rome for my birthday, and we were kind of at that point, you know, where engagement was, you know, I was hoping it was going to happen. And basically I just harassed him going, you're going to propose, you're going to propose, you're going to propose, to the point that he said, I'm not going to do it anymore. I was going to, but you've ruined it for yourself. So then he did, obviously. But it kind of felt like a surprise because I didn't think I'd ruined it for myself, but I wasn't completely not.
Made it all. Oh God. So that was all really exciting. And then we got married the next year, then in October 22. I'd always wanted like big white wedding, and it was just perfect. Like every second of it was perfect. When I remember as well, one of my friends, whenever we used to watch her wedding video, her dad had died a couple of years after they'd got married, and she said like wedding video is like the most important thing for me because it's the only time I get to like hear my dad and see him, and there's so many people on there that each year you're almost like, oh, they're dead now. Yes. Well, didn't think it was going to be Max. But now like I could probably do his wedding speech off by heart.
You've watched it that much,
like that many times. Yeah. So you know, when I'm like feeling griefy, I'll like be like, best friend, come round, let's do this. And
you do the full watch the wedding, have the cry,
have a really cry,
cathartic.
Yeah. Cry.
I like that.
A good story with that is that my best friend Gareth and his partner Richard, I'll come on to that maybe in a bit of like how they've been really good friends. But once when they were round watching it quite early on, I think Gareth, we weren't that close at the time, but they were round, and so we like watch the ceremony and we get to the speeches, and Max's best man stands up to make the speech. Gareth starts sobbing, like inconsolable. And I'm like, Gareth, like, it's okay. like you do.
You're comforting him.
I'm like, Gareth, oh my goodness, it's okay. And he went, no, you know what the worst part about this whole thing was like, what? He was like, I haven't got a best friend. I was like, sorry, the worst part Well, this whole thing is you haven't got a best friend. And I'll be your bloody best friend. And then since then,
And then you
we've been
are.
best friends. Yeah.
I love that.
So
I
it's
love
just
that. And I
true.
bet it almost kind of shocked you out of your grief because you were like, excuse me, what?
Yeah. So that's funny. So
And what about your little boy? Because you must have had him the next year, did you?
yeah. So we went like real fast. Like we got married. I was would have got pregnant in the December is
December's a big month for you.
I'd not thought about that before. Yeah, so I got pregnant in the December, which was great. Like literally first time of trying, which obviously we were so lucky because we listened to like so many stories, obviously, of people that like really struggle. But for us, it just literally the first time.
And you're allowed to be joyful for that as well. I was very lucky. I had conceived all three of mine very easily. I feel huge empathy for people that didn't, but you know, that it's okay to feel a bit of joy in that.
Yeah. So that was that. And then we'd already booked our honeymoon to Australia. So, I mean, I'm so glad we did that as well, because I think I'd be like the bougie, like, I want to go and lie on a beach in the Maldives for 2 weeks and do nothing. And Max could not have sat still for that
Me
long.
and you do that, yeah?
Yeah, we'll do that.
I'll come with you on that one.
So he had some friends that were moving to Australia. So we went to their leaving party, and after a couple of gin and tonics, he said to me, why don't we do that? And I was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And actually it was absolutely the best holiday that I've ever had. And that, when I think of like my memories with Max, so many, like there was just so many there that like are so important to me now. So I'm so pleased that we did that. And I was like 20 weeks pregnant on the day that we flew.
Oh.
And so I was pregnant while we were there, which was good because then it meant like when I did a little like bump announcement picture, it was like well planned out for like on an Australian beach.
Tanned and gorgeous. Lovely. And did you feel okay? Because 20 weeks normally the kind of the really rough bits pass.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to travel with morning sickness or anything like that.
No, I was fine. I was fine. I mean, I remember at the end of pregnancy being like, this is shit. Like I hate it. I've hated every second. And now, well, probably because I've been through some other stuff since then. But now I don't look back on it and like, oh God, that was like such
that's his own nature, being very clever.
Makes you go, oh, actually, I could do that. You know,
yeah, exactly that. But you'll end up with 3.
But yeah, so we had this like amazing honeymoon. We had like renovated the house. We literally, the tiles in the kitchen went on the Monday. I had Lane on the Wednesday. So last minute and all that.
Of course.
And then what followed was obviously just 3 months of like newborn bliss, bubble. And it felt like we were just maybe coming out of that really rough part, like finding our feet a little bit more. Yeah. And then
everything changed.
Yeah.
Also, I can relate to that because my youngest was 6 months, and I always sort of say I'm not that I'm glad it happened, but like 3 or 4 months earlier, we would have been in the, you know, arguing about who's most tired, really sleep deprived, like, you know, just chaos. Whereas we kind of were at a point where it felt, you know, we were enjoying it. And I think lots of what you've said here, you know, these gorgeous memories and that the Australian, the wedding, you're so grateful for those, aren't you? They hurt because they are like a little ticker tape of what might have been. But yeah, I'm grateful that we weren't in that kind of hideous, you know, boobs exploding phase, because I don't think I'd have coped well at all. So Max, he died suddenly, didn't he? Yes. And because you've woven this beautiful story as you've been speaking to me, I feel quite invested in your marriage, and I feel quite sad that we're about to go on. I sort of want to stay in the nice bit, but we probably should, you know, what with it being the purpose of the podcast. Go back to that day. Start at the beginning of the day. Tell me what happened.
So he probably paint a bit more of a picture of Max. He was like so fit and healthy, like really, I mean, could eat like a horse, but he did like a really physical job. He loved running, loved the gym. So like on the Tuesday, I think he had ran 7K. So like really fit and healthy. I remember at the weekend he'd been out on the Saturday night until maybe like 3 a.m. It was like his Christmas do with like the other tradies. He didn't just go out by himself.
That'd be my Christmas do.
No, you can invite all of us for a Christmas.
I should do a Zoom one, shouldn't I? That'd be quite fun.
And I remember on the Sunday being fuming with him because it was like it was again, I was like, you're in bed hungover and I've got the baby again. Like, this was supposed to be a nice day of us being together and But, made up pretty quick because it wasn't worth it wasn't.
And it's Christmas.
And it's Christmas. And we were excited, like the following weekend was going to be like buying the tree and doing all of that. So because it was Christmas, I had planned on the Wednesday to go out with my mum and dad, who aren't together, but happy to mix together, which is
nice. That's modern.
Yes. So we decided we were going to go out to some festive garden centre somewhere and take Lane out. So I've been out in the morning with my dad. And when I came home at lunchtime, Max was home from work, which was really unusual. Like, he was such a workaholic. Like, his friends, I think, were really glad when I came along because it stopped him working as much. But he had so much pride in the work that he did. And he was very much a like work hard and like set up for our future. Like, work ethic was like nothing I've ever seen. And I can be a little bit of a workaholic, but like, it was just really bizarre that he would like be home at lunchtime. So I came home and he was like, I just really don't feel well. Like, I think I've got flu. And then there was a bit of a conversation of
man flu.
Got a flu jab and And I'm thinking, you've got man flu, get a grip. Because I've got a baby.
Yeah.
So I left him on the sofa with a Lemsip and said, I'll see you later. I'm going out to this lovely festive day. So went and did that, came back, probably got home about 5:30, and he was in bed in the spare bedroom. And I didn't really go up and check on him or anything because I just thought I'll just get on with sorting Lane out and all of that. And then sort of carried on with the evening. And then I was in the front room wrapping up Christmas presents. And he came downstairs and just said, I really don't feel well. I'm going to go back up to bed. And I'm thinking, you've just got man flu. Like, and he went upstairs. And then maybe an hour later, I heard him being sick. And then I'm thinking, oh, okay.
Oh, shit. Okay. You're not well.
Norovirus. But then I was more concerned about
Lane
for him. And I feel bad. And like, I do carry quite a bit of guilt because like the text messages I sent to my friends, like he's just got man flu and he doesn't understand and he's being ridiculous. And if I'd have known, I never would have said.
Oh, but I lay in the bath saying and said, I muttered under my breath, I hope you bloody drowned, leaving me here to do everything with the kids. And he was. And the words are not how you felt. And I always, because I found that, to one of my friends, I'd slag Ben off a bit, he'd pissed me off at, and, the messages weren't. But how often do you text your mates going, oh, I love my husband. He's such a wonderful person. You don't. You vent to them going, for fuck's sake, he wouldn't get up in the night. And so I think it's really easy to kind of feel bad about things you might have said, thought or written. But of course, you didn't. If you'd had any clue, and which you didn't, you're not a doctor.
No. So anyway, so I went up then after he'd been sick, classic wife, rubber gloves on, go and save the book. I've got nothing else to do with the 3-month-old baby. And I went in and I was like, okay, you all right? And he said, if I get any worse, you're going to have to ring for some help. And I was like, who am I ringing? Like, calm down again. Like, you've just got that. Like, you'll be fine. And then I feel like he might have even texted me being like, can I have some night nurse? Like,
get up, you lazy bastard.
Yeah. And I was really, I didn't want to give him the night nurse because I was really like, no, you've already had paracetamol or like whatever. So no, you're not having any more stuff. And I kind of left him there and that was fine. And I went to bed and I can still hear like his breathing and like the sounds that were coming out of him weren't normal. But I also just kind of thought he was being a bit dramatic, which it obviously turns out he wasn't. So then I woke up at about 2 because Lane woke up for a feed. So fed Lane and then I thought I'll just go in and check on him. And when I went in, like, again, like the breathing and I could just tell he wasn't well. And then I noticed that he'd like soiled the bed. So I thought obviously really unusual. And so I sort of sat there thinking, I want to change the bed, but I didn't want him to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
So I was a bit like, I don't really know what best to do. Anyway, I heard it because I was kind of sat going, do we change the bed in? Do we not? Like, what do we do? And then I heard him get up and go back to the bathroom. So I thought, right, I'll go in, I'll change it and just be like, and I was going, just stay in there, like, it'll be fine. And I hadn't really even stripped it at all, really. And he came stumbling back into the bedroom. And that was when I noticed that, like, he was covered in this rash. And he just was talking to me, but wasn't really saying anything. Like, it was just complete, like, mumble, and it wasn't making sense.
Like delirium almost.
Like delirium. I can remember him saying, you know, I love you, don't I? Which he would say to me quite often, would be a thing. But I can remember that. But apart from that, there was nothing really. So I came out and then rang my dad so my dad's got a medical background. And so I don't make any medical decisions with that. So I rang, and this is like probably 20 to 3-ish in the morning now, or 2:30. And I said, he's got this rash. He's really not well. I'm a bit worried about him. And Dad sort of said, it'll be all right. It can be any kind of you get all sorts of weird things with viral. And I put the phone down and I thought, no, I'm not happy with that. So I thought, I'll ring 111. So I rang them. When I was on the phone to them, actually, my dad texted me as well and said, actually, I'm not happy about the rash. I'll ring 111 and I'll come round. So I spoke to them. I was on the phone to them for I know it was 17 minutes because this is the kind of weird stuff that you remember. And they were going, is he conscious? Yes. Well, can we speak to him? I'm like, no, he can't make sense. Like, this is what I'm trying to tell you. I remember being really frustrated because they were saying, like, can't really understand what he's saying. And I'm like, that's fucking.
And you feel like you're going through this they're going through a checklist, aren't they? And it's frustrating.
Yeah. So anyway, they said that they would send an ambulance. So by this point, my dad's arrived because I'd said, you know, if I need to go to the hospital with Max, you need to be here to look after Lane. I can't quite remember the order of things then, that he then ended up ringing my mum because he said, I think actually, if you need to go, I'll come with you to the hospital and we can leave your mum here with Lane. And then when the paramedics arrived really quick, actually, it was probably only about 10-12 minutes, something like that, which was really good. And when they came, you could just feel this sense of urgency, not panic, but like this clear, like, you know. So I just came back out of the room and out of the way because I had this real thing of I just didn't want to be in the way.
No, I get that.
To do their thing. And then can remember I have a real thing now about not the presents that I'd been wrapping up, I'd put into a box and put them at the bottom of the stairs, and the paramedics moved them out of the way. And now I cannot have anything on the bottom of the stairs. It's like I just can't have it.
You've just got to have that clear path.
Like you can't even put like a sock to take upstairs. Like I have to.
You couldn't live in my house. My stairs is where everything lives.
No. There's plenty in other places, just not like that specific bit. And then I remember them saying to me, like, which hospital's the closest? And where we live, we're in a little bit of like a triangle of kind of three main.
They know that.
Oh, well, it was because they were an ambulance service from like out of the area.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Which makes more sense now. So I was like, oh, it's these three, but I don't know which is the closest. Anyway, they made the decision to take him to Salford Royal, which was literally a mile closer than the other. So that's how urgent it was. And then I stayed in the kitchen. So I never saw him come down the stairs. My dad did. And it is weird because it's like I have visions of him coming down the stairs, but I didn't see it. But I think I created this picture obviously in my head. And then they went in the ambulance, and me and Dad were then obviously going to go, while I packed a backpack of drinks and snacks.
Oh, really vital things. I bet you probably put lip balm in, all the essentials.
Well, just in case we're there a while. Yeah. Make sure I've got a bit of sparkling water. So, and then we went, and again, I have this real thing of I should have gone in the ambulance. And, it wouldn't have made any difference. But again, it's just one of those things that I feel guilty about it.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda, all of those.
And then at this point, no one had still sort of said what it was or what was happening. But I remember as we were leaving, I said to my dad, he's going to be okay, isn't he? And my dad said, I don't know, baby. And it was at that point that I was like, this isn't good. Because like with my dad, because of him being medical as well, it was like, I just knew the way he looked. It was everything, the way he looked at me, what he said. It was almost like at that point, I started to be like, this isn't good.
And also asking your dad that, is he going to be okay? What you wanted to hear straight back was, yes, of course, darling. Yes, of course. And the fact that your dad obviously couldn't lie to you, but he couldn't give you that either. That must have felt like literally just being slapped in the face.
Yeah. So we get in the car to go. And at this point, my dad's saying to me, I think you should probably ring Max's mum and dad and get them there. And I couldn't get hold of them. And I didn't have their house phone number because, who has house phone numbers. So I ended up needing to ring his sister who lives in Germany. And she answered sort of saying, it's 5 a.m. And I'm like,
yeah, wouldn't be ringing you normally.
Exactly. So anyway, left her to try and get hold of Max's mum and dad. And then we got to the hospital. And my dad had sort of said in the car, I think he's going to be
intubated,
not incubated, intubated. So I was already kind of like mentally prepared for that by the time we got to the hospital. And so we got taken into like the family room and we sat there, and one of the registrars came out and was talking to us, and they said, he's really, really poorly. We're going to take him for a lumbar puncture and a brain scan. Once we've done that, you can then see him, and then we'll take him up to ICU. And so we'll either get you to see him before he goes to ICU, or once he's in ICU, then you can go and see him. So that was kind of what we were waiting for. And then they came back and said he's gone into cardiac arrest.
Oh, shit.
And they said to me then, do you want to come and sit with him? And I was just too scared, I think. So I just said, no, and again, I had this thing of, I don't want to be in the way.
Oh.
So we stayed sat in the family room. And then it was just, and then eventually at some point I went, no, all right, I'll come and sit outside of the room, because it literally in TV with the glass, and I could see him obviously tubed up in the
ventilators.
It must be the CPR, but the machine rather than the person doing it. So,
but lots and lots of scary, noisy, beeping machines.
All of that, and lots of just busyness of get this, get that, you could just feel that going on around. And I know they'd come and spoken to me and my dad still at that point of saying, he's really not well here. And even if we can do something, he's probably not going to be the same Max, because obviously he's not had oxygen to his brain for such a long time, etc. And so while I was sat there, then eventually they had got hold of I think Lucy had ended up having to ring an auntie that lives about 20 minutes away. She'd driven to Jeff and Leslie's and literally knocked them up in the morning and said Max is in A&E, you need to go now. And for a long time, almost the worst thing that I'd seen at the hospital was his mum's face walking in. Now it's more him, but at the time in the initial stages, I remember that being really haunting.
Yeah.
And because of course for them, I almost was living this countdown of I know what's going to happen here. And I'd done that from 3 a.m. So I've had 3 hours, I guess, at this point. I don't want to say getting used to the idea, because I'm not used to the idea now, but that I knew where we were
you
at.
were probably kind of in shock as well, this autopilot that you go into. You're talking about kind of feeling in the way, and I found myself offering to make cups of tea for the police officers. You very much go into this self-preservation of autopilot. And I'm thinking for his mum and dad, they've been jarred awake. It's their baby. They always are babies, right?
Mm-hmm.
The phone call to Ben's mum, that
yeah.
Yeah.
So they came, we then moved back to kind of like the family room. I'm sure at that point as well was when some like random person came and just sat in there. And I remember my dad being like, get out. I mean, my dad had worked in, I say he was medical background, but he'd worked in A&E for about 20 years. And by the time he retired, he was the director of operations for Manchester Children's Hospital. So he ran the hospital. So he knows how hospitals, knows how hospitals work. But this like really like, get out. Like, who has put you in this family that are like, what is going on? And then the consultant came out and spoke to us, and again was like, he just kept going into cardiac arrest. They couldn't bring him back round. They just could not get it going in, or if they could get it, they weren't getting it for long enough for him to sustain it himself. So then they sort of said, do you want to come and sit with him? So we all said we'd go in and sit with him. And so this would have been 25 past 6, I guess. And so then we went in and sat with him and held his hand. And it was like, that was the only bit I thought where I'm here now, so I'll save you because I'm here now. But obviously I couldn't. And then it just got quieter in the room. There seemed to be less people around. It just, just people started to back off a little bit. And then the consultant just put her hand on my shoulder and said, "We're gonna let him go now, Amy."
Oh, Amy.
And so, and that was that then, really, with me and his mum sat. His dad was on the other side, and my dad was stood back because my dad, being my dad, I think felt that although he
probably didn't want to get in the way, like you.
And that was that, really. Then that they tried everything, and I would never ever fault what A&E did because they were amazing. And I think they get such a bad rep of wait times and all of that. But if that wait time is because they can save somebody that needs saving, then that's fine. And everyone was so kind. And I remember afterwards there being nurses like crying and everybody, because of course while I was there I was going, I've got a 12-week-old baby.
Oh God.
I've got a 12-week-old baby. And I think what was so difficult as well and made it difficult in the aftermath was Lane was literally 3 months old on the Wednesday and Max then died on the Thursday. So it was like this, you know what it's like when you've got your first baby, particularly, it's every milestone. Oh, we've got to 4 months. Oh, we've got to 5 months. And that for me was then just this ticker of it's been 1 month, it's been 2 months. And I think probably naturally people do that, but when you're widowed, but I think it was just so much more prominent because the dates were so close together. Well, like the same date, really. So then again, we just went back to the family room, and then they moved him then from resus to like a quieter room, I guess. And I said to Jeff and Leslie, did they want to go first? Selfishly, because I wanted to be with him longer. So I was a bit like, well, if you go first, I don't have to then come out. And so then I just, afterwards, obviously, then they put him in like this peaceful room, I guess. And I just sat with him and sang to him and talked to him. And I remember going in and they had this, like, they put this like crochet knitted like blue heart in his hand.
Oh yeah.
I remember walking in thinking, what is that? That is ridiculous. Like, why, what is that there for? And then afterwards, literally the last second before we were leaving, I was like, I think I want that. I'll go back in. And I'd been in like for quite a long time talking and singing to him, and then I'd gone out and then I'd gone back in one more time as we were leaving to say like bye. Then I walked back out and then I thought, no, I want to be part. I remember going back in and going, me again.
Prizing it out of his dead hands.
Like that. We're like, sorry to disturb you, it's me again. And I like kept, that's like my most prized possession, even if it like washing machine and I've not realized. I like the panic is really real for this like ridiculous little blue, probably quite gross blue heart now, but it's really,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So then it was just kind of like, obviously still in the hospital, the like started making the phone calls.
Your baby at this point, because your mum and dad were, your mum's still with the baby.
Yeah, my mum had Lane. And of course, that was awful because my dad had to ring her and tell her, and she's on her own.
She wants to be with you, wouldn't she?
Me. So then it was like, let's start making the phone calls. And of course, when I rang, well, a couple of friends that I rang first, the first one at first thought it was going to be Lane, because you naturally kind of go,
Oh, yeah.
where, you know, but obviously said it was Matt, and everyone was just like, what? Like, what do you mean he's just, because it was fine the day before.
I said,
Literally
what was
fine.
it? What was it that killed him? Did you know at this point?
Yeah, well, it's a thing called meningococcal septicemia, which is quite.
I'm going to be honest, I saw it in your notes, but I didn't want to try and say it, so that's why I made you say it. I'm so sorry.
No. So meningococcal septicemia. So it's the meningococcal is the bacteria that can either cause meningitis or septicemia or both. And they have noticed that meningococcal bacteria can be carried around in the back of people's throat, like for any reason. And most people will go through life, they might, and it gets passed sort of through sneezes, contact, general
public transport, probably.
Yeah. And they don't know why it breaks through the barrier, but obviously if it does, it goes on to either cause meningitis or the septicemia. And it's like just so fast acting, and it's really, really, really rare. So I think the way I can most describe how rare it is, in that year, only 34 people died of invasive meningococcal disease, which is the two things counted together. So that's 34 out of, I think it's like 600,000 people that died that year. It's only 34 in England and Wales that died of that.
And it comes on very, very quickly, as you said. And is there a cure for it? Do people so if you get this, it's a terminal, very quick life sentence?
Yeah. And obviously you normally associate meningitis with like children under 5. Yes. Or that teenage age. So again, that's what makes Max a super rare case, because age-wise, it was like it's just the wrong age bracket as well, and we won't know.
And he's not elderly, he's not immune compromised.
No, nothing.
I think that's what's so shocking about stories like this, because we all know the stories of someone who could smoke for 30 years and they don't, they live forever. But it's people who have underlying health conditions, maybe take risks with their health. Not that you expect it, but you can kind of understand it. There's a reason. And I think for you, there's that, brilliant, you're a lottery winner just in the world's shittiest lottery,
Yeah.
It makes
That's a really good way of putting it.
You could have that one. But it means that you've got no answers to it. Was it something he did? No, there's nothing. And that must be really, really scary, because you now know that life can be extinguished in an instant. And how does that lay with you? Does that lay heavy with you? Does that worry you?
I don't think it worries me. I mean, I think I've almost, I don't think I give myself enough credit for what I've been through. I think I'm almost a bit numb to it, because
completely.
That it's just so rare. But I also don't think it's certainly not made me like health anxious.
Yes, that's good.
Anything like that, which is good. What it has made me is very, very pragmatic. And in an awful way, I don't think I actually have the same levels of empathy anymore, where obviously for other people, they become a lot more empathetic. So an example of that is, at the moment, like my nana is really, really poorly, and it's looking like she will die. But I'm very like, okay.
Yeah.
Bless her, she's 92.
Natural order of things.
Natural order. And I find it very difficult to have that. I can't have more sadness. It's almost hard to say that it is sad, because it's just life, right?
Yeah, and I do think it makes you view that very differently, because that's kind of how we all want to go out, isn't it? In our 90s, lovely full life, family around us. And it's hard when you've seen somebody snatched in the prime of their life, denied. I'm thinking of Lane as well. When Max died, like Ben and Tabby, Lane was what I call I think babies are like houseplants, and they become pets and then they become humans. So you were still in kind of houseplant phase. He didn't have a personality. He hadn't said his first words. And you're thinking, you know, your grandmother she saw her children grow up, she saw her grandchildren grow up, and Max doesn't get any of that. And it's we are more empathetic in a lot of ways, and I think that does come with time as well. You sort of soften that black heart of yours a little bit, but also, no wonder, right? No wonder. It's incredibly unfair.
Yeah, it is that. It is just it's just shit, right?
It really is shit. It really is.
How I'd gone, and I think as well, what makes it even more like that is I was at that like happiest I could have been, right? We were just in that, we'd just had this wonderful little boy, and we're just about to go into Christmas and have this amazing life and all of the plans, and it literally got snatched from me for no rhyme or reason, and just so fast and so unfair and just so rare. Like this doesn't happen. My dad said, I remember, again, for that, like, rare, that's my thing, like, I want to get across how rare it is my dad, as I said, he worked in A&E for 20 years, and he said he probably saw this like 4 or 5 times in 20 years of working in A&E. So it's like, it just doesn't happen. It's just not a usual thing that happens. And so that just shock of why and how, and there's not even a how, like you say, like someone, I've smoked, now I've got lung cancer, like those things you can kind of have an understanding around, but like with
or
this
hereditary illness, or it just, when it's so out of the blue and it's so random like that, it's just, how do you reconcile with that? And actually, how did you reconcile with it? How did you go home? And because you must have come home from the hospital and gone straight into mob mode, and 3-month-old babies, they wait for hell or no man, like you know, they need feeding, changing, winding.
So after we eventually kind of like came home, again, having made like a couple more phone calls at the hospital, to friends, various. I remember ringing Max's best friend, Callum, and he didn't answer. And I'm kind of glad that he didn't, because then I rang his wife, Ruth. And again, like, why would I be ringing Ruth at Friday at 7:30 or 8 a.m., whatever it was by that time? And I told Ruth, and then I remember Cal ringing me back and me just giving my phone to my dad and saying, I can't do that. And then it was only on the phone for about 30 seconds, I think, because dad was like, he can't speak. So it was like, just ringing back. It just ring her back in a bit. Like, we'll speak to you later.
Because you're sort of in the eye of the storm, aren't you? There's you and Lane, right? You're in the, and then you've got his parents, your parents, siblings, and then best friends, and then you've got work. Then this kind of ripple effect.
Yeah.
And you have to be the bearer of this news. I felt like this kind of harbinger of doom. You know, I'm ringing to shatter everybody's worlds. It's horrible.
Yeah. So when I got home, I already kind of had a bit of a house full. So there was obviously my mum had been here, my uncle and aunties were here, and my sister and her fiance were here, and Lane, obviously. He'd not gone out by himself at that point.
Not yet.
Someone knew where he was. I remember walking into the front room, and again, like, it's my Uncle Carl's and Freddie, my sister's partner's faces that I can, because they were crying, and they were people
about
like
men crying, right?
Crying, yeah. And again, I'm like, it's okay.
You're a cup of tea.
Right. And I was okay. And then I've said, I think I was going upstairs, God knows for what, the toilet or that, who knows. But it got to the bottom of the stairs, and that's when I made the noise.
Because it all landed.
And the noise came out. I just collapsed at the bottom of the stairs into this like screaming, crying mess. Like, I was just broken then there. And then I went upstairs, and I did have this thing of that I needed to tell Lane, which is odd because obviously he didn't respond.
Oh God, that's really got me. Oh God.
Sat with him like on the bed and was like, Daddy's gone and it's just us now, but I'll look after you and we'll be okay. And it was, you know, because I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Of all the things, like the big things, but then the small things go through your head as well. Like one of my things is I was like, who's going to show him how to have a stand-up wee?
I know.
You're like, I don't know how to do that.
And don't get me started on puberty as well.
Yeah, once that comes. Oof. So yeah, and then the day was very much like people rallied round very quick, and it is like I was listening to one of the episodes the other day, and I think you were talking about like how did you feel in those like initial moments, and it really got me thinking. That was like, I cannot remember. Like I don't think I have a memory until maybe like the 8, like some things specifically, yes, but like I don't think I have a memory of that time. I remember saying to one of my friends, I was like, I got up every day. Like I had a shower every day, and I got up and came downstairs. She was like, no, babe.
No, you didn't.
And I was like, yeah, no, it did. She went, no, I showered you twice. And I went,
oh.
I was like, and when someone says something and it should unlock a memory, nothing at all. And I'm like, I just don't remember.
Full amnesia almost. That's mad.
And I think there's so much where I just don't, and other things I can remember in like minute detail, but others of it, it's just like a complete and utter, not even this, just gone. It's just not.
It's got to be your brain protecting you, hasn't it? It's got to be that you've almost disassociated in the moment and gone through the motions. I felt a lot like I was there in body but not spirit. It's like get up, feed the baby, get the kids to school, house manage somehow not to tip into crack den territory. But it was a machine. That wasn't me.
Yeah. And I think that is the thing of like that, just move through the motions, keep going. I do know, and I did fact check it with my friend after my making up of, I will make it every day. And I was like, this is like bullshit. I did every night feed. That was a big thing. I did every night feed. But again, I think, obviously you hear a lot of people talking about how they couldn't sleep and all those things. I think I could, because I think I was just in that routine of I was only sleeping for a couple of hours anyway. So therefore it was like, get up, do that, go back to sleep. And I was just in his routine, and therefore mine could kind of be put to a side. Now I struggle with sleeping a bit more. So I think it's maybe been like a slower catch up maybe.
And actually, when you are in that fairly newborn stage, you're so grateful for sleep, right? You were probably just literally physically exhausted. God, are you saying that about doing the night feeds? I was the same. I did because my mum and dad moved in with me, but other people never hear your bloody child crying, do they? So no. I would get up and feed her every night, and you sit there, don't you? And you're thinking, fucking hell, how is this my life? But I took great pride in that. I always say, no matter what was going on, I got up to that baby every night. I held her. I took her to this stupid baby yoga type things just to not be in the house all the time. So you've said that you obviously you told Lane when he was tiny baby. How have you kind of spoken to him about his dad? Because is he two and a bit now?
Yeah, two and 3 months, something. It'll be 2 and 3 months in December.
I should know as well.
So I still think I'm kind of like undecided a little bit of how I want to speak to him. And of course, I listen to this a lot, and everybody has like different ways doing it. And then you're like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh no, that feels like it's not the right way. So I'm not quite sure, but I've got pictures everywhere. There's pictures of him everywhere, and he loves the pictures. I actually have a board of pictures which we had at the celebration, and Lane loves getting that out, and like sometimes like tap dancing on it, a bit weird, but fine. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. So I've lots of pictures everywhere. So I talk about him constantly. I every night since Max died, when I have put Lane to bed, I have said, Mummy loves you, Daddy loves you, Daddy's always watching. And I've done that every night. And Lane now will say watching, which is both heartbreaking, but also that's been quite nice in a way. So yeah, I've still not quite worked out. I mean, I think it's going to be like, again, I think it'll be once he starts having more of an awareness of his daddy isn't in the house, right? Once he starts that, I think that either like in our hearts or what he just lives all around us, or, you know, I've still not quite made my mind up, I don't
To be
think.
honest, I wing it a lot even now because you know, what you say, he's always with us. He's always watching us. They'll take it very literally and be like, "Where?" He's a star. And that's.
And I go to the start, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really tough. And I think perhaps because I had the older boys, so Tabby she kind of grew up with it kind of being normal, if you like. So, but I've got a beautiful video of her, and there's a picture of me and Ben, and she's going, "Mummy" and "Daddy" as she points at it. And I just think that to me was so important that even from a young age she knew who her dad was. And I think also, and this is very tricky for people who've lost somebody to suicide, for example, because this can be much harder to explain. But the idea that they didn't leave her, you know, and Max didn't leave Lane, it's you know, the body stopped working and all this sort of stuff. But I don't know if there is a right way, because every child is different, every death is different, every mother who's grieving or father who's grieving is different. But it sounds like you're doing absolutely, as far as I can say, the right things, you know, just by keeping him, I don't want to say alive because that's not true, is it? But keeping his presence around and letting they know where he comes from. Does he look like his dad?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I first had him and people would be like, "Oh, he looks like Max," I'd be like,
yeah, annoyed, right?
He looks like me. Now, if anyone says he looks like you, I'm like, no.
Because Tabby didn't get my eyes. I wanted her to have my eye. You know, we want a bit of ours in our babies, don't we? And she got Ben's eyes, which are darker than mine. And at first I was like, oh, it's annoying. I wanted her to look like me. But actually, I like that I can look into her eyes and see a little bit of her dad.
Yeah.
And it's weird because they do pick up the mannerisms, the characteristics. It's, you know, biology is a
like, I can tell Lane's going to be funny.
Yeah.
Like just the way he like looks at me sometimes, or like I'm sure he rolls his eyes at me sometimes, and I'm like, you look like you're
do
that.
And you can blame all the shit stuff on them. So if he's naughty when he goes to school, you're like, oh yeah, his dad.
Yeah.
And you stayed in your house, did you?
Yeah, so we've stayed in my house, and I've got I've tried to, well, the downstairs toilet is a project at the moment, but Max hadn't well, when we were doing all the renovations, he said, once we finished the kitchen, he was like, I'm not doing anything on this house for the next 12 months. I'm not even putting a photo frame up. Now I'm like, you have taken this a bit
too far now. Now it's too far. Have you got quite good at doing things? Because I painted a wall. Don't look at the ceiling because I couldn't get a ladder high enough to go up to paint the ceiling nicely. But things like putting up pictures, no drama. Take the bins out, no drama. But sometimes I so wish that I didn't have to do it all. I'm quite proud of myself, as you should be, and hope you are, of everything that you've managed to do over the last 2 years. But it's still that kind of, but I don't want to do it. I can do it. I don't want to do it. It's not fair.
It's exactly that. And it is think in some way, like it's still just being in the motion. Like, and I've always said, the way I've always described it is like everyone's grief is as valid as everybody else's. For Max, like as valid as his mom and dad's or his friends or whatever, but I'm like, but my situation by far is the worst. It's that, like, I don't think people who have lost like parents or friend, you know, whatever that is, when it's your life partner and your best friend and person that you love more than anything in the world, it's every single thing changes. Like from the minute I wake up, he doesn't make me a cup of tea, or I don't make him a cup of tea, and then Lane's crying, so I'm the one that's straight on it.
You don't get a cup of tea.
Yeah, I have to like do everything, and it's every single thing is just different.
Every bill, and you know, things like as he gets older, there'll be school and navigating friendships and all these things. It's not just the practical side of things is exhausting, right? It's exhausting, but it's being the buck stopping with you for everything, and it is tough.
It is tough. And in some way I can't complain because like my dad and my dad particularly is like, I'm surprised he's not walked in yet, to be honest. Like,
I want him to now.
He and my mum as well. And that, you know, I do have a very solid support helping with Lane particularly. So I do get to do, you know, I do get to go to the gym. I do get to go and do my work and my career, and I do have to travel quite a bit for that. So I still can go and do all of those things because I have them here that they all look after him. So I am lucky in that.
Do these grandparents take any other extra children by any chance? I could send a couple up to Manchester. They sound amazing.
But it's still it's not the same, and it is still that I think one of the things I struggle with the most, and that people can't like understand if you're not in our situation, to be a 36, I never know how old I am because I just stuck in, I was 34 when Max died, but
I think I'm 42, but my birth certificate would tell you it was. I'm 44. I'm not, how old am I? How old am I? I'm 44. Jesus Christ. So sorry. We'll leave that in, I think.
I'm the same. So I am 36 now. I'll have to check. The lack of independence, and I was very independent. Like, again, from younger, like I bought my own house. I wanted to be out. I was the daughter that was like, I'm 17, I'm driving. I want to move out. I want to, like, always been independent, career driven, all of that. To lose all of that independence because I can't walk out this house anymore without somebody here.
Without somebody coming to help.
Just go to the gym. I can't just walk to the shop, in an evening. I can't just go to the shop.
You're trapped.
And it is. And then on top of that, feeling that you have to say where you are, who you're with, what you're doing all the time, or being, please, can you have Lane overnight? Oh yeah, why? What are you doing? And you're thinking,
sometimes it's infantilizing. It's infantilizing.
And that's really difficult to suddenly go, I've lost all of my independence along with losing Max.
Yeah. And I found mine are older now. So Monty was 7 at the time. He's now 15. And it's little things like I can say, I'm just popping out. I wouldn't leave them for ages, but I can leave them for an hour or two. Or I even popped up to the pub in the village the other night. And it does give me that freedom. But because my daughter's now homeschooled, I'm kind of back in that place in the daytime because I wanted to get my hair done the other day. I had to get a friend to come and watch her. And you're like, this is not what I signed up to. I don't like asking for help. It doesn't sit comfortably with me. But sometimes you have to. And I think well-meaning people often say, just tell me what you need. And you think, I don't want to tell you what I need.
I hate that one. And I hate let's do something.
Yeah. What?
And it's because, like, I always say, it's like, well, there's me and I've got 10 people telling me that they'll help or tell me to do something. So that's 10 people I've got to go back to say, let's do this. Versus if you 10 message and say, let's do this.
I'll mow your grass. I'll do your bins, and it's very practical. My neighbour over the road used to mow my grass for me every time he did his. And it's those little things that people just do without asking that really, really make you feel like you've got a network.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for Christmas? What did you do for Christmas last year?
So Christmas last year.
What did you do for Christmas the first year? Actually, let's go to that one first.
Okay. Christmas the first year, bizarrely, I managed. We'd booked dinner at the pub previous because obviously you have to book it 7 years in advance, if you want to go on Christmas Day and spend a small fortune. But because I knew we were going to have late, mine and Max's thing was always like, once we have a baby, we are staying in, because I've done split Christmases for ever in a day. So we were very like, once we've got our child, that will be, you want to come, you can come. And we kind of had that attitude for the first year, except I said, I'll have a 3-month-old baby. I'm not cooking Christmas. No. Let's go out for that bit. So we'd booked the pub, and we still went. Me, my mum, and my sister still went. Although my sister went in a couple of days before and like pre-warned and said, "Don't want," because I was very like, I don't want Christmas crackers. I don't want anything festive. I just want to go in, eat my meal, and leave. Like, because it's not normal. So that was the first year. And again, I can't really remember much else around it at all. I'm laughing because, maybe don't put this bit in, but I remember his dad saying to me on the day, like Bay came round on the day after obviously they'd been to hospital and came back. And I remember being sat in my chair and he came over and was like, sorry to bring this up. I said, oh, don't say that on this day. Sorry to bring this up, but obviously I was in the middle of finalising the Christmas Eve meal. So I'll ring them and let them know that Max isn't coming, but do you still want to come?
Please leave this in. Please leave this in.
Only did. Get rid of the bit that says it's so they're different than me.
But he will have gone into that practical dad mode. I need to sort things out right. This needs doing.
Yeah.
And without thinking, bless him. Yeah. People do come out with some crackers. See what I did there?
So that was the first year, which was, again, because it was so soon, it kind of didn't count because everyone was just in this like mode, and nobody really did Christmas.
And Lane wouldn't have known, so you don't have to worry about him not having a lovely Christmas because he's a baby. He doesn't care as long as there's a bit of tinsel to look at.
Exactly. And then the second year, I found really tough, really, really tough, because of course, Christmas is everywhere. There's no getting away from it. I think
Families.
I sent to you said advent calendars can fuck off.
Yeah.
I want to count down to the day that my husband
you get to see it literally on a little, you can open the door that your husband died. That's nice for you.
Yeah, lovely, right? I struggle with like just the whole thing around it. And of course we were like at the festive garden centre. So like all of it is just very hard, and the pressure to do stuff. You just feel like the mum pressure, or what are you doing? You know, constantly the questions, oh, what are you doing for Christmas? Or what was like, and it's like, I just want to shut it off, and it's one day, but yeah.
It's just like, a roast dinner, isn't it? Let's be honest, it's a roast dinner with presents.
And the first year I got invited to my friend's house for dinner. So we went there. This year I found myself having to ask somebody if I can go to theirs. And that's been really tough.
That's really tough.
It's why, because I don't have my unit, right, of what it should have been. And again, that thing of you're so on your own of, yes, I have my mum and dad, but, you know, my family unit, if I want to go on holiday, having to ask people, shall we do this or shall we do that? Like constantly feeling like I am on the
periphery.
Everyone else is getting on with life and they have people to do things with, and I don't, not in the same way that I should.
It's even stuff like, as you're talking, I'm thinking of going to see Father Christmas, you know, all those lovely little traditions, and it's mum and dad that go. And, you know, John and I were together last Christmas, so we took Tabby together, and I really liked being part of, you know, that was nice family. And then you think, well, this year, it'll be me and her again, won't it? And it's every way you look. And, you know, you can think to yourself, well, these couples are probably having a massive row in the car on the way home. I do that sometimes. I'm a nasty person sometimes, but it makes me feel a bit better. But you think, well, I want to have somebody to have a row with on the way home.
It's like I really struggle between the sort of September and Christmas. I really struggle with seeing anybody on maternity leave with like a small baby, because I just think it's just such this reminder of like this happy time and like no cares in the world, and it just got ripped so quick. I'm like, look at people like.
And actually, yeah, maternity leave is meant to be this glorious time, and you know it's tough in points. But you know, most people get 6 months. I even got a year. Actually, I worked for local central government when I had my first. And you have this time where you don't have to worry financially because you're still getting paid. You've got your baby. Your Christmas is coming, and there's something really beautiful about the fact you knew how happy you were, and that you were aware of how lucky you were to have all that. But to have it snatched away just as you had it, my heart really, really hurts for you.
And I think in this second year as well, it's that they're hard in different ways, right? But I think I'm very aware at the moment, I feel, where had you told me, oh, Max is going to die tomorrow, draw the circle of what your support network looks like.
Very different.
Would look completely different to what that is now. And my dad found a lovely analogy quite early on, actually, which was about leaves, branches and roots. And it was about how some people are the leaves, so they're like there for the season and then they disappear. You've got the branches that they'll stay, but they can snap or get weaker, or, you know, they might grow new leaves, but they might not. But then you've got the roots that they're always going to be the ones that are there for you. So I try as much to focus my energy
on the
roots part, but like it's tough because you do feel forgotten about and left to the side, and that you're just getting on with it. And I think because I'm this bubbly, personable, go-getter, independent, I remember really early on, I can't remember who it was, and somebody saying like, oh, and you know, we were having a conversation about it, and we said, not at least it's happened to Amy, like not like, oh, that's all right, she can have a bit of grief, but that thing of almost Amy will be okay because of who Amy is. But that pressure as well is then like, oh, I have to be okay because I'm expected to be this bright, bubbly girl.
And I think what people forget is we have to be okay, particularly when we have children and young children that need our undivided attention. That mess you slumped into at the bottom of the stairs, I bet you'd love to be in that mess sometime, just to have the luxury of collapsing onto the floor and howling like an animal in pain. We can't. So yes, we look like we're strong and we're tough and we've got our shit together. But what's the alternative? There's nobody to catch us when we break. There isn't anybody to back up. There's no one to put the tea on if we can't do it. We have to do it. And that is, I find there's something quite empowering. And there's a real honour in raising my kids alone. That I know that the bond that we have will be incredible. It already is. The female of the species can do one, but no, I'm kidding. But it isn't how it was meant to be. Women do go into being single mums. They make that choice. That's not a choice we made, and it's. I said, would I have had a third child if I knew I was going to do it on my own? What the fuck? I'm grateful I have her, and she certainly got me through that really dark time because of her beautiful baby innocence. But this is not the path that we opted for.
No, and I think as well, like a scary thing to talk about maybe, or like I remember at first, like that bond went, like I struggled with Lane. It was hard because you were like, you're here, but Max isn't. Max I'd had the relationship with, right? I wouldn't change it. Of course I wouldn't change him. But like at the time when you're going through all of those emotions and you've got this screaming baby at you, like that was really hard for a while of me feeling like, I don't know if I can do this. And do I even like being a mom? Because this is not what it was supposed to be. And I think often like, I don't think I'm the mom that I probably would have been, but I'll also never know because I have to be all of the roles like rolled into one. But I also almost don't know what the dad role is because it was just so short. I didn't see it. And he was amazing with him. Like it definitely like changed his world, and he was wonderful with him, although he could not cope with the no sleep. No. Again, he's taken it a bit far. But
it's one way of getting out the night feeds, Max.
Oh, yeah, getting out there. But he, and he just adored him, and I just know how amazing he would have been. And it is that, like Lane now, he's so like I quite like this age, although two terrible twos is terrible at times. Like I love this age, and he's so smiley, and he's just started like singing, which
real personality comes in, doesn't
it? And it's just every day that twinge of, oh, I wish Max could see that, or oh, we should be here, or it's every day, and you can't get away from that.
You can't, and I'll be 8 years in March, and I may know probably every day there's a twinge. Sometimes it doesn't knock me off my feet, but the weekend my daughter had a dance competition, and there's all the dads there, and she's got a final next month, real big deal, and I'll be there on my own. The other mums will have their partners there, and it does feel quite lonely. It doesn't. I would say it's not quite as acute. And it's interesting talking about your second year, because within the kind of widow world, a lot of us would say the second year is almost worse than the first, because the first you have a lot of support, so you have a lot of sympathy, a lot of empathy, a lot of people grant you kind of space to grieve and be a mess. But year two, and again, Christmas, that first Christmas would have been, everybody you knew's Christmas would have been tainted. Second year, I bet they, certainly from the outside, they seem to just go on and have normal Christmases. And then this year, same again. And it's like, hang on a minute, wait.
Stop. Yeah. And it is that like, I do feel let down by a lot of people, and it's hard that it is hard. And then I also think this again in the second year, I also feel like I can't say to people what I want to say, because I can't be this like raging bitch, right? That like just says what she wants because, oh, I'm a widow, so I can say what I want. Like,
I reckon you could probably squeeze another year out of it.
Sure, I kind of get away with it. But I do think that bit where you've got to hold your water, and actually you do want to say no, like, you've been crap. You've not been there for me in the way that I expected or I would have thought, or even more so, the ones that really get me are like ones that I think Max would be disappointed in. Yes. They're the ones that really get me.
Yeah. And actually, and I don't think they listen, so I can probably get away with saying it, but Ben had 5 siblings. So, and none of them have had my children in nearly 8 years. And I think he'd be furious. He'd be furious. He'd be like, why don't you want to see these children? And I was the last link to Ben. Like, we go over and see them all the time. Well, not all the time. They live on the Isle of Wight, but we go over at least a couple of times a year. And I just think that I would want, if it was my brother, I'd want to have that connection.
Yeah.
It's very odd. And I know people grieve in different ways, but you're probably aware, but I've got a book out in the new year, and there is a whole bit on how you can help somebody who's grieving, because I think a lot of people want to help and they don't know how. But I always say the one thing you must not do is forget us. Yeah. A friend of mine, and I've told this story lots of times, but she said to me, I'm buying a big table, Rosie, a big table for the dining room, because you and the children will never have Sunday lunch alone. I've never been invited round for Sunday lunch, not once. Like, don't promise me things.
Yeah.
Amy, it's been absolutely incredible to talk to you today. I wish, actually, I genuinely wish I had longer to talk to you more, because I feel like we've barely scratched the surface. You're going to be one of my guests that comes back on again. I can feel it in my bones. I can feel it. We're starting to bring people back in again, or I'm starting to bring people back in again, do sort of chatty episodes and see how people are doing further on, which is so lovely, because, I started this 3 years ago. People's lives have changed beyond all measure. And actually, as I was talking, I was thinking your husband was alive when mine was dead. That's weird as well, isn't it? It's crazy how life goes. So what are your plans? What does life look like for you now? Are you going to get through Christmas? Are you going to do anything fun?
Yeah, so I'm definitely got that sort of attitude sometimes that can, cost a bit of money when I walk.
Don't talk to me about spending several grand on Lapland on yet, but
so yeah, sort of get through, obviously, and I am somebody who things like, weirdly, actually, his birthday is hard, but I find my birthday incredibly hard, although that's in the summer. And I kind of have a bit of a run of my birthday August, Lean's birthday September, wedding anniversary October, and then it's the run up to the Christmas. So I do find like this time of year like really difficult. So I think it's just that, like, get through, and then hopefully I can like feel like I can breathe a
little holiday or something. We were talking about the Seychelles, weren't we?
Yeah, that'll do.
We'll talk off my
I've done a Ibiza the last 2 years with my friends.
I'd love to go.
Brilliant. As like a let's just go.
I always want to go before I get too old, and I think I'm on the cusp now, so I better pull my finger out and go.
Too old for Ibiza. It's just
I'd love to go.
Just the energy is cool.
Maybe widow's retreat, huh?
That sounds.
If people listen regularly, they're like, all he does is try and tap up the guests for holidays.
But yeah, so I think get through the year. I am going actually to like a widow Christmas night. Yeah. So I found the podcast really early on, actually. I would say maybe the back end of the December, beginning of January. Mainly because me being me was like, I will project manage grief.
I will fix myself. I'll do all myself.
Didn't work. But anyway, here we are.
But you stuck with me. That's good.
Yeah. And then you talked with Lou about how you'd met through the Widowed and Young. So I joined that and then found my good friend, Widow Jo. She'll call me Widow Amy. I call her Widow Jo. And she literally lives just up the road.
Amazing.
Our own little tribe together, which again, Gareth, back to his wonderful way with words, once said, what's your group? Wow. I was like, no, Gareth, it's definitely not called Wow. What an awful name that would be. Except we've taken it and traded that as Widows on Wine. So like,
nice. Like somebody else said they've got one. I can't remember what it was called. It was Widows Go Wild or something like that. Or Widhows. That was it. I was like, this is awesome. I was in a group called Widows Fireplace early on, which was, you can imagine what that was about. But you've got to find your tribe. And whilst I'm very sorry that Widow Jo is in the club as well, how convenient of her to live near you.
Yeah. So then, and she's wonderful. Like, she's wonderful. So when I met Jo, she was a couple of years in. Again, Steve died in a RTA, which is obviously her story to tell. But very sudden. So that's been a good thing because we have that. But she's got sort of 3 older children, so it's a little bit different to me. But there's so much obviously that like we bond over. So I met her for like a coffee in the January time, and then we've really got on since. Anyway, there's then she found this night because the reverend from the local church, he's also a widower. And so he DJs. I mean, it makes it sound like
the widowed Reverend DJ. This is too good.
I'll have to tell him, and you'll have to get him.
Come on.
And he DJs at this night, so we're going. But I think Nikki Wake,
yes,
she's going. Having looked at the list, I think she might be there. So I thought I'll have to go and say hi to her.
You must. I'm actually speaking to Nikki again next week, so we're working together on a few little things in the pipeline.
So we're going to that. I'm not quite sure how it's going to be because it sounds in some way very tragic, but also I'm sure
it'll have the best time. I honestly do. When I did the retreat, there was 10 widows in my house, and people, did the head tilt. Was that tough? And I was like, no, it wasn't tough. It was amazing. We were quite naughty, and we told each other really, we just laid ourselves bare. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to come.
Yeah. So I think to round that off, it's get through Christmas, and then I've not particularly got, I think it is just a bit take it as it comes a bit.
Yeah, eat the elephant one bite at a time. And I get very overwhelmed and anxious, and I have to really pull myself back and just think, you've got to get through today. So because otherwise I will start thinking, oh my God, the weekend, Christmas, and it just spirals. I'm also going to tell you something. If you've got children listening anywhere, don't. I found this thing called Santa Sorted, and it's, you basically go onto this website, and I wouldn't necessarily do it for my daughter because she's quite fun to buy for, but teenage boys are really difficult. And you put in what they like and what they don't like, their ages, and they buy and wrap the whole stocking for you and send it to you, right? I've never done anything like this before. I've bloody done it this year.
Amazing. Anything to make life easier. That was like, you know what? Am I getting a cleaner? Yes. Am I going to
yes
with one fork and one bowl in? Yes.
Because actually, this mummy magic that we try and create, or dad magic, or whatever, because you don't want your children to miss out on any of this. So I've done the fucking elf and the Lapland. I've done it all. Did it make them happier? Fuck no. They just want to be with me. My mum and dad are going to come over. We're having Christmas at home this year. Really, that's what the kids wanted to do. And we'll probably play some games, and my dad will pass out by the fire, and it'll be just calm. Which I think is what we need.
I think that's the big thing through Christmas and life. My big thing is I just want Lane to be happy. If he's happy, I've done a good job.
Exactly.
That, because because you feel like they're missing out, and I can't give them everything. That's that's hard because as a mom, all you want to give them is the best, and I will always feel that I can't do that because Max isn't here, and he should have that, and so that's tough. So I think it is just, you've just got to do what you can.
And take your lead from them as well. I mean, obviously Lane is very little, but I think as they get older, they're able to say to you what they need and what they want, and let them feel listened to. I'd have blown a credit card on no, I wouldn't, because my credit card's maxed out, but on a trip somewhere hot, that's where I'd like to be on Christmas. But they want to be here, and it's only a day, isn't it? It's only a day.
And you do want to run away and think, oh, can I get back to Australia? And I just want to be away, and I don't want to be here and have to deal with everybody. But
it comes with you.
You just do, and it is tough, and it is hard. And this year I've managed to book a couple of festive things to do, and I'm not at tree putting up point, and I think I'll always be a bit nothing gets done until after the 7th. I think that will probably be something I feel. But I think the things of I could take him to that, or maybe we can try. I think it does feel a little bit easier this year. The surrounding of Christmas and the things to do for him, especially because now you get so much more back just from.
I was going to say the joy that it gives him, even the lights and things and you can stick him in the buggy and push him around the lights. They love that sort of stuff, don't they?
That bit I think feels a little bit easier, but then the loss of, like I say, the feeling very lonely is more prominent, I think, than it was last year.
Yeah, and I get that. I really, really do. Oh, Amy, you're a delight. I love you. Thank you so much for coming on today. That was just the most gorgeous conversation. And I, for what these words are worth, I'm incredibly sorry for your loss. Max sounds like the most incredible man. And I have no doubt that you will raise Lane to be a wonderful man as well. But I'm just sorry you have to do it by yourself.
Yeah. Thank you.
For anybody that is listening out there and has been moved by Amy's story, if you want to message me, you absolutely can. Or you can message Amy. Do you want to give your Instagram, or you want them to come through me? How do you feel about that?
I can. It's Amy Lou BNB.
Oh, that translates well into. I'll put it in. And I will tag her in it anyway. I've never do that. I don't know why I did that. I just like to shake things up at the end sometimes, make things a little chaotic. So anyway, professional voice. So yes, if you would like to get in touch, you know where I am. My inbox is always open. I might be slow getting back to you, but that's how my brain works. I will be back with you next week for another episode from the coalface of widowhood. But for now, you take care of yourselves and each other. And it's a goodbye from me and goodbye from Amy. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.